Good morning, everyone. I am Reverend William Levwood, affectionately known as Rev Lev. My pronouns are he and him. I'm the minister here at Accotink, Unitarian Universalist Church. So happy you decided to join us this Sunday. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests in the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on and their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing, so that all together shall one day know full justice. Spirit of light, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirring of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the land, giving shade of justice. Who told me knows, we set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Christina, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am happy to be your worship associate today. If you aren't new to Accotink, look around. Do you see people that you haven't met or haven't spoken to in a while? These people like you and want to meet you. Help us live up to our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home for all by reaching out and making a connection. By visiting this congregation, newcomers are in a transition moment, and people in transitions are more open to new friendships. This means that your new best friend might be here this morning, and this is your chance to get to know them. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour immediately after the service. We're so delighted that you decided to join us today. Welcome.
I hope you have opportunity to expand on your connecting with each other at our social hour after the service. I want to start off the centering words this morning by thanking Paulette. Last Sunday when I was talking about ransom note fashion, my own ransom note fashion, the way that I mix and match things like the mixed fonts in a ransom note, and I said that I thought I hit it very well. Paulette, I don't know how many people heard it, she said she thought Taylor Swift was an example of me not hiding my quirkiness, which is not actually my fashion, but my letting my freak flag fly a little bit, because I am a Swiftie. And did anybody notice that Paulette, by doing that, inspired Taylor Swift to announce that she's releasing a new album on October 3rd? So thank you, Paulette. I'm excited. So as I mentioned, last Sunday I talked about how we pull from multiple sources and also how we celebrate theological diversity in our Unitarian Universalist tradition. Our theme this month is Foundations of Unitarian Universalism. And the Sunday before that, I talked about how we're called to transform the world with liberating love, and how that's really rooted in our theological history. And the idea that every person can flourish if given the context, the circumstances to flourish. So we work to make a world where all people flourish and thrive. And that's also, all of this is because we're a covenantal faith. The reason we draw from multiple sources and celebrate theological diversity is because we're a covenantal faith, rooted in shared values more than shared beliefs. I often hear people say they love coming to this church or UU churches in general because they like to be among like-minded people. But I suspect that what they really mean is to be among like-valued people. Does that make the distinction make sense? So today's service will be focused on those shared values and how to make them come alive in our lives, how to bring more vitality and purpose to our lives by living into those values. I didn't mention yet that next Sunday we have a guest in the pulpit, and the Sunday after that as well. So next Sunday we have Emily Parker, who's a candidate for UU ministry. We'll be talking about the history of the Flaming Chalice. And Reverend Morgan will be here, who's a member of this congregation, and Unitarian Universalism's Director of Global Connections will be preaching on the 5th Sunday of the month. So isn't it wonderful that in addition to hearing from me, you get to hear other perspectives, particularly on the foundations of Unitarian Universalism? I think that's a wonderful thing. I also want to let you know that the Time for All Ages today, which is an original story that I wrote, might be a little bit longer, because you all know, because I wrote it, and I'm not super concise. I did cut about a third of it since I wrote this centering words part, so it's shorter than originally planned. But we're also going to do a backpack blessing in addition. So it might be a little bit longer, but keep in mind that there's no multi-generational service in August. But we'll go back to having so do you see what I'm getting at? It's kind of like a longer Time for All Ages instead of a full multi-generational service this month. But also I want to let you know that we will be having multi-generational services once a month starting in September, but last church year, that happened on the 3rd Sunday of every month. This is the 3rd Sunday of August. But this church year, we're going to do the multi-generational services on the 1st Sunday of every month. So we'll start that with our in-gathering, our water communion, on the 1st Sunday in September. And if you don't know what water communion is, or if you do, this is a reminder that you're invited to bring water. Could be from your faucet at home or from a beloved body of water, and we'll ritually pour that water into a shared vessel that Sunday as part of our ingathering, our coming together for the church year. So, but today we're going to talk about those shared values, and we've been reciting them this month, and I want to invite you to rise in body and spirit to recite them again, or a shortened version of them as we light our chalice. So please rise for our chalice lighting words. And let's say all together, love is at the center of Unitarian Universalism. Love is the practice of our living tradition. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant to help everyone flourish, honor the web of life, be beloved community, cultivate generosity, celebrate diversity, and transform the world with love.
You gotta say, hey, JETPIG, your turn. Hey, JETPIG. Hey, JETPIG. Hey, JETPIG. Give me a J for justice. Give me an E for equity. A T for transformation. P for pluralism. Give me a G for interdependence and generosity. You gotta say, hey, JETPIG. Hey, JETPIG. Give me a JET. Give me a PIG. Let me hear just gotta say, hey, JETPIG. Hey, JETPIG. Hey, JETPIG. Hey, JETPIG. It's about love, love.
So our time for all ages, you've heard of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, is it? Is that right? Yeah, I think it should be Flaming Chalice, right? A Goblet of Fire is really just a Flaming Chalice, right? And then there's Percy Jackson and the something, and there's Aru Shah and the right? There's all these. So we have Dorothea Sophia. We're hoping to have a whole series of Dorothea Sophia and so today is Dorothea Sophia and WWJPD. What would JETPIG do? So here we go. My name is Dorothea Sophia. Weird name, I know. I was named after two famous Unitarian Universalists, Dorothea Dix and Sophia Lyon-Fahs. You can just call me Dot. Recently, UU's changed from having 7 principles or 8 principles at some churches to having 6 values centered in love. I didn't like it at first. I grew up with the 7 principles, the kids' version at least, and I liked them. So I didn't really like the change at first, but my dad, oh my goodness, my dad loved it. Each UU value has a color connected to it, so my dad turned everything into a tutorial for UU values. Green trees, lecture on generosity, or intergenerosity as he called it because it feels so good to give. Wear a blue shirt, Dharma talk about pluralism. See a red car on the highway, sermon on equity and everyone flourishing together. He basically ruined the rainbow. I mean, sometimes a red car is just a red car. Eventually, somebody figured out that you could spell JETPIG with the first letter of each of the 6 values. And all of a sudden, pigs with JETPIGs, jetpacks were all over our house. My dad wore t-shirts with JETPIG on them and drank his coffee out of a JETPIG mug. You get the idea. Pretty soon, I'd be in an argument with my mom or something like that, and my dad would say, Dot, WWJPD, what would JETPIG do? That meant I was supposed to think about the UU values and how one of them might help the situation. Annoying. So annoying. But then, there was this time I was playing outside with my friends, and the ball we were playing with flew over the wall. And do you know what happened next? In my imagination, I saw a jetpack and all flying over the wall. Of course, we couldn't fly, and the wall was too flat to grip for rock climbing and too tall to climb over anyway. But it got me thinking, what could we do? How could we adapt? Which is from the transformation value, if you didn't know. At first, I thought we could just get another ball. We were a whole group of kids, and I knew probably most of us had another ball we could use. But the ball that went over the wall belonged to this really young kid, and she was already crying. Not big-like, but quietly off to the side. You know, that made me think of being compassionate and loving to others, because that's part of generosity, at least the UU version of generosity. The little girl was also wearing a green dress. Green, like generosity. I mean, can you believe it? I told you my dad ruined the rainbow. So all of this went through my mind in a flash. WWJPD. What would JETPIG do? Then one of the other kids said, let's just get another ball. But I looked at the girl in the green dress, and I said, nah, we need to get that ball back. We had to walk for seemed like forever until we got to the end of the wall. And then another forever to the ball, and back to the end of the wall. And by the time we got back to where the ball had gone over the wall, it was time for everybody to go home and have dinner. But you know what? When we finally got to the ball, and the girl in the green dress took it up in her arms, the smile on her face was so huge. And I looked around, and everyone was smiling, like we were all mirrors of the girl in the green dress. And I thought about intergenerosity and about red cars and equity. And I wondered to myself if this is what everyone flourishing together looks like. WWJPD, what would JETPIG do? Ugh. So that's our story for today. These values are tools for embodying love in the world. Sometimes love calls for justice. Other times, like in the story, love calls for transformation in the form of adapting and generosity in the form of compassion. Okay, so if you have a backpack, stand up now because I'm going to bless it. Okay. All right. Here's the blessing. May this pin with the adorable JETPIG remind you that you are loved and lovable. May you know you are supported by this community and can lean on us whenever you need to. And may you learn and grow as Unitarian Universalists, living out our JETPIG values at school, at work, at home, and always powered by love. I'm going to share a special values prayer this morning. It's from the Reverend Christopher Bice, and it's after the prayer by St. Francis, which you're probably familiar with. Spirit of life, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is indifference, may we bring justice. Where there is selfishness, may we bring equity. Where there is stagnation, may we bring transformation. Where there is homogeneity, may we bring pluralism. Where there is isolation, may we bring interdependence. And where there is greed, may we bring generosity. And where there is hatred, may we bring love. Make us instruments of your peace with love at the center of everything we do. May it be so. Only in a UU prayer, right, would you have homogeneity and pluralism in the prayer? Again, Taylor Swift rhymes covert narcissism with what does she rhyme it with? I'm forgetting. With something. You have to listen to the song again. I think Taylor's secretly a UU. Maybe like many of us who didn't know we were UU, she hasn't found out yet. All right. We have an outreach partner every month, and this month our outreach partner is Voice, and I'm going to invite Reverend Kenneth Nixon up, my good friend, who's he is Voice's Fairfax County community organizer, and also an associate minister at First Baptist in Manassas. Thank you, Reverend Nixon.
Life be lifing. Some folks didn't recognize me because I'm normally in a suit and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I got kids, it's back to school shopping. I barely washed my face and brushed my teeth this morning. Life be lifing. But it's good to be with you all today. I was sitting here listening to it. I have to switch up my lines because when I think something's impossible, I'll say, yeah, that'll happen when pigs fly, but apparently pigs do fly now.
You just need a jetpack of love, that's all.
So pigs fly now, so I got to switch it up now. But I want to highlight, for those who aren't aware or those who are connected, that Voice is currently on our pro-housing campaign in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And Accotink has been a founding member of Voice since its inception, when it was born out of the housing foreclosure crisis, when we took on the big banks, Jamie Dimon, like in Jamie Dimon's face, and got over $300 million in principal relief. But now we're on a campaign and we're planning to hold 1,000+ person action October 19th at Flourish United Methodist Church, in which we are planning to have the gubernatorial candidates and state and elected officials to come and to commit to zoning reform to allow congregations by right, which to build affordable housing on their property. That does not mean they don't have to go through the planning process and the various studies, but congregations don't have to spend years and hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get to zoning before they get to the other process. And just so you know, the amount of land that congregations have in the Commonwealth of Virginia to be able to do this is the equivalent of building out Richmond twice. The equivalent of building out Richmond twice. And it's one tool in the toolbox, and we've been meeting aggressively with state and elected officials as part of the coalition in which VICPP and other groups are a part of, where we're working really hard to be a solution to it. I think it's called YIGBY, Yes in God's Backyard, legislation in which we are trying to bring hope to the hopeless. And I ask all of you to think right at this moment, as I was thinking with my sons who have the privilege of having secure home and a place to return to, about the countless families who sit on the edge of insecurity, where rising rent is crippling people day after day. Young people get out of college and their job can't even help them to afford to get a one-bedroom apartment. They typically have to go back and live with their parents for several years at a time. Parents can't keep their children near them or in the same communities because it's inaffordable. But we have the ability to be people of faith who create the solutions necessary to change the tide. And sometimes we think that these things are impossible for us to do, or that the system's going to keep doing what it does doing, because it's very good at doing what it's doing. But on October 19th, Accotink, which is a founding member of Voice, has an opportunity to ensure that the General Assembly and the next governor takes this housing crisis seriously and compels localities, because you can't go jurisdiction by jurisdiction, it'll never get done, but compel localities to enable faith communities to be able to be a solution in this moment to, by right, build housing on their land. That's all. Thank you.
Amen. I should have saved the prayer, right? Where there is indifference, may we bring justice. Where there is isolation, may we bring interdependence. Where there is greed, may we bring generosity. we're going to do something just a little bit different for our reading. And actually, the reading is listed after the sermon, but then I changed my mind. So it's going to happen before the sermon, in your order of service, that is. So you have these bookmarks that have an abbreviated version of the words for our UU values. We even have a version with 2 sides and the second line, an abbreviated version of the second line. But you lose a lot. As good as this is for getting familiar with these new UU values, these bookmarks, you lose a lot. For example, you lose the phrase, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, which you'll hear more about in my sermon. That's not on this shortened version. So in a moment, Christine and I are going to read through the full text of our shared UU values. Among the many inserts that you have in your order of service today is one that has that. If you want to read along, if that's your jam, you like to read along while you listen, it's there. You can also not use it and just listen, but have it to take home with you. So what I want you to do is a simplified form of Lectio Divina. So as you listen, I want you to ask yourself, I want to listen for phrases that jump out to you. And ask yourself as you listen, is there one of these values that when I make it come alive in my life, it makes me come alive? Is there a word or phrase that you need to hear right now? Listen for that word or phrase. You might imagine it's as if a divine voice or the wisdom within you is speaking to you as you listen, and you're waiting to hear that special message that is just for you.
So here's our shared UU values. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love.
Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large.
Equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities.
Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian Universalist Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect.
Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect.
Interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships.
Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships and interdependence and mutuality.
So these UU values are new or newish. They're not that different in some ways from the 7 or 8 principles that precede them. But they're only just over a year old and were adopted just over a year ago at our Unitarian Universalist General Assembly after a 3-year process of getting feedback and then more feedback and different drafts. And so I want to tell you that I love the meaning behind Unitarian Universalism's old 7 principles. I mean, I have preached rhapsodically about those 7 principles. And I know that many UUs find them really poetic, the language of them really poetic, more poetic, in fact, than the language of the new values for some folks. And they're definitely more concise. But I have to tell you, I never really liked the sound of them. They feel very mid-20th century humanist. And this is the 21st century. I love mid-20th century humanism, but it felt like my parents or my grandparents were telling me to do these principles, kind of like the dad in the story. And I was like Dot saying, ugh. I mean, I'll give you an example. We affirm and promote equity, justice, and compassion in human relations. That's the second UU principle, and I love the meaning. But as Dot would say, ugh. Another complaint UUs would sometimes voice about the 7 principles was that they didn't inspire action. Every principle started with those same 2 verbs, affirm and promote, which are a little weak as action verbs go. Affirming is too easy and promoting too vague. In fairness, the new UU values are long. You just experienced that. That's why I shortened them to the 3 to 5 words you find on those UU values bookmarks, which Accotink's administrator, R.W. Carney, and I designed together. But on the other hand, the new UU values are also very short, or they can be, just 6 words. Justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. JETPIG. Now, some people don't like JETPIG because they feel like it's too silly. But you have to admit, it's an amazing way to introduce the values to our kids. And it sure makes it easy to remember them all. Very few UUs can recite all 7 of the principles. I mean, raise your hand if you think you could do it from memory right now. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, we got 1, 2 people. I thought Pete Fonneau was raised his hand. It even says it in the script. Not many of you could recite all 7 of them. And I'm tempted to put the ones who raise your hand on the spot, because I'm not sure I believe you. Maybe because the new values are easy to remember, I find them easier to incorporate into my life. I've been on one of my bike rides around Burke Lake, and as I'm opening myself to the beauty of the light slanting through the trees, or the birds resting on the water, I'm thinking to myself, interdependence. Oh, glorious, glorious, interdependent web of life. With humility and reverence, I honor you in all your majestic, interwoven beauty. Or something like that. Sometimes when I'm sitting at a cafe working on my computer, I remind myself to pause. And as I look around at the other people in the cafe, customers and staff, I remind myself to celebrate that we are all sacred beings. Full stop. We are all sacred beings. I don't even get to the next part, which is important, very important, about celebrating that we are diverse in culture, experience, and theology. But my goodness, we are all sacred beings. That's the new first principle for me. And I know many of you, so many of you love the first principle, and I love its meaning, just like you do, but I apologize so much, but I just can't help myself. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. I I love the meaning. I do so much. But again, like Dot, I'm like, ugh. And it doesn't work in my life. This is the important part. I've tried. When I look around at the people in the cafe and I say to myself, every one of these people has inherent worth and dignity, well, for me, at least, nothing happens. When I look around while saying to myself, we are all sacred beings, it's like the people glow. They look and feel more beautiful, more glorious, more majestic, more sacred. And before I know it, I'm eating the salad from the cafe, the one that they made to go instead of for here, and I had to go up and ask them to mix in the dressing, which they only do when it's for here. And at first they told me they couldn't do it because it was a to-go order, and I was annoyed. But because I'm looking around and reminding myself that we are all sacred beings, and because that makes me love them so much, I start dancing when I taste the extra basil, which the cashier who forgot to ask for here or to go remembered. And so I dance up to the counter and I tell her, you know what you did remember? The extra basil. And it tastes so good. It makes me want to dance like this. Actually, I was dancing better than that because there was a good song on. And as she's smiling and laughing, I go over to the people who made the salad and shout into the back, thank you for this salad, it's so good. And I hear a voice say, we got you, bro. or maybe it was, we got you, bruh. Because that's what young people say today, whether they're talking to a boy or a girl or a non-binary person, we got you, bruh. And some of you might not like bruh, and I admit I didn't like it the first time I heard it, but I choose. I tell you, I choose to celebrate bruh, because I choose to celebrate that we are diverse in culture, experience, and theology. And I did all of this, not just because of the basil, not really because of the basil at all, because I always order this salad with extra basil. I did all of that because my UU values reminded me that we are all sacred beings, and I wanted them to know that. I wanted them to know I see you, I appreciate you, you're amazing. Thank you for being amazing. You are all sacred beings. Thank you for being the sacred beings that you are. Each of you, uniquely sacred, one-of-a-kind sacred. And I know that the new equity value has nearly the same language as the old first principle, but I like the new version of that better too, because it's more clear about what that declaration of inherent worth and dignity calls us to. More clear about what it means to not just affirm, but to promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The new equity value tells us that we respond to that truth about humanity by declaring that every person has the right to flourish, and then building and sustaining inclusive and accessible communities where they can flourish. And we commit to dismantle the racism and all the other systems of oppression that keep people from flourishing, so that we can be the diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive together, where everyone flourishes together, where no one is denied the medical care they need, whether it's gender-affirming care or cancer-fighting care or psychiatric care. Thank you, beta blockers. Thank you, testosterone. Thank you, Wellbutrin. Thank you, Lexapro. Thank you, Adderall. What else? Shut them out. Zoloft. Thank you, Zoloft.
Thank you, PrEP.
Thank you, PrEP.
Ativan.
Thank you, Ativan. Thank you, one-a-day vitamin. We got to get insurance to cover that. What about vaccines for COVID, for measles? Shingles. What else? What other vaccines? Flu, Tdap. Mumps, MMR. Let's make America healthy again for real. For real, bruh. Let's be worthy of saying we got you, bruh. Because we are interdependent. We are interdependent, so we're called to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. Our interdependence, that one isn't even just a value, it's a theological truth. You might want to be independent and just look out for number one. We all get caught up in that impulse sometimes. But even if we just want the best for ourselves or for those closest to us, I see you, J.D. Vance. Because the world is interdependent, we need to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation, because if we don't, Malcolm X is right. Those chickens are going to come home to roost. Measles and mumps and eventually drug-resistant strains of tuberculosis are going to proliferate, not just in the poorer countries, but everywhere, every damn where. When we acknowledge this, even generosity becomes self-serving. That's why I call it intergenerosity, because it's self-serving and other-serving at the same time. So WWJPD, what would JETPIG do? Adapt to a changing world again and again. WWJPD, what would JETPIG do? Adapt to a changing world and transform it with liberating love. So ask yourself, what you value makes you come alive? Which value or phrase from the shared values, when you focus on it in your day-to-day life, deepens your connection with other people, keeps love at the center? Commit to living that value. Commit to focusing on, just start with one, that one value, and letting it guide and transform your life. May it be so, and may we be among those who make it so.
Please rise now in body or in spirit and join in our closing words. As we extinguish our chalice, I invite you to join me now in our community blessing with these words of David Bumbaugh, slightly adapted. This church is dedicated to the proposition that by celebrating our differences and embracing our diversity, we honor the unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity. Now that we've gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world inspired to share our values. Thank you.